Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of brutality, just heavy, aggressive music. We're going to be looking at a band called Converge, who we've actually had on the channel before, and I think even something off of this album, but we've never checked out this song, which is not the title track, it's the first track of the album. It's called Concubine. It is only 79 seconds long. I actually did a double take on this. I was like, wait, it's the first track? Is that just an intro? For my little bit of research, no, this is a full track. There is shorter songs on the album. So, I don't know, let's just dive in, see what Converge has for us today. That volume, that's just steady over there. Okay, I think I'm going to do more of a quiet analysis here, just, for a little bit of contrast from that. What in the world, man? Oh. All right, so here's the breakdown of that. There's a lot of sections. I kind of just want to group it into that minute long of music, but I feel like there's actually a couple of distinct moments within the song where the riff or drum pattern changes up enough for me to say, yeah, that's definitely a new section that deserves its own section title. And all the titles are like loud and noisy, so we're just going to stick with like A, B, and C, because describing the sections, you're not going to find any differentiation there. Every section is just loud and noisy. And so I find it interesting that they can create so many different ways of being loud and noisy without it really ever feeling different. I think that's what really gets me on this, is that, like I said, part of me just wants to view this as just a minute long idea. And I think it's really easy to see it from that perspective too. But the analytical side of me is like, no, this riff lasted for 20 seconds, and then we got this distinct riff here. I'm like, okay, yeah, there are distinct sections here, and I think it's easy to see this in both ways, as just one linear A section and as like an A, B, and a C. But they all feel like they fit too. Nothing in here really feels too distinct. I can hear some differences where maybe I'd want to put a barrier and separate two parts of the song out, but all of it is generally a similar vibe with similar foundation and similar harmony. If there is harmony, I don't know. I mean, there has to be a chord progression in here. It's not just noise, but I couldn't tell you what it was. And it's just like, it's this singular right? It's this big thing that just you can view it in that singular framing if you want from pretty much every perspective of the song, but you can also kind of chop it up into smaller bits without, really having to, you know, uh, put a lot of work into it. The song feels like it wants to be divided up simultaneously of being viewed as this singularity. And I find that to be wild. It is, I don't know, it's a thing. It's a song. Is noise. Noise. That's a good thing to move on to next. If you can't tell, I'm a bit flabbergasted about this. It's very much outside of my wheelhouse. As much as y'all have shown me some noisy, chaotic stuff in the past, I think this kind of takes the cake, partially because of its brevity. But anyways, let's talk about some noise here. There is a lot of drumming going on at any one time. There's a lot of guitar work, there's a lot of bass work, there is screaming. But I think what separates this quite a bit from other noisy core songs is this is metalcore, right? It's kind of what I'm getting here. It's somewhere in the core offshoots. I don't know. Um, the thing that separates, though, this song from other similar styles of noisy wall of sound approaches is production, and a lot of that comes down to compression. Everything in here is compressed to such a level that fuzz, I'd say, is half of each sound's personality, of its unique coloring. When you listen to the guitar, yeah, you're going to hear the electric guitarness, you're going to hear the grit of the overdrive, but also equally you will hear just fuzz, white noise, crackling, static. The same is true for the drums and the bass as well. I think the only instrument where it isn't more of a 50-50 split is the vocals, and the compression sort of dominates that to a point where I can still hear the sum of the distinct coloring of the voice itself. But that is like a spice to the white noise. The compression makes up so much of the vocal timbre. It's just bonkers. And when you have all this compression, all this white noise tossed together and mixed together, you're going to create something that's very singular. We're coming back to it. It's very easy to hear this song. It's just a one massive whole, a wall of sound, to feel this weight pushed upon you, to view only the forest. All of it comes together in that very easily, but it's not difficult either to pick things out. I don't think it's what my ear naturally wanted to do, but I could say, what's the right guitar doing? And focus in on it without a lot of effort and hear it. What's the drums doing? I think the vocals are the most clear thing in here as far as the mix goes of instrumentation. The band kind of gets a mixed wall of sound. The vocals kind of sit slightly above it. It's easier to pick them out than anything else. But again, I didn't really have to work too hard to chop it up, to chop the mix up and hear each individual instrument. I have no idea what any of this means. Why is the song so easy to view as a whole and a group of parts simultaneously on at least two parameters? I don't know. I don't think that has anything to do with anything. It might just be Converge. It might just be how they make music. But it's wild. It's like a transformer after they've like fused. Oh no, like a Power Ranger thing, like a Megazord. It fused together. Very easy to see that it's a giant robot, but each of the limbs is also very clearly a different robot, and it's very easy to view it in both. A group of one thing or just itself in totality. Converge are Power Rangers of metalcore. That's, if you don't take anything else away from this video, that's what the takeaway should be. And honestly, I think that's kind of it. I think I'm gonna go hit some lyrics. I mean, 8 minutes about a 1 minute song. So I think that ratio is pretty high compared to most of my other analyses. And it's also, again, this very singular thing. I don't really think there's a lot of different parts to talk about in here. It's just loud and noisy, and there's a lot of things being played at the same time, but it's really easy to view it as just one big sonic wave washing over you. There is, though, I guess just one last thing before I hit lyrics, is just that vocal screech towards the end. That was ridiculous. I don't think I've ever heard a Fry vocal like that. It was just piercing. Somehow it even cut through its own compression added onto it and kind of, I don't know, it was wild. It kind of blew my mind. Agonizing, I think, would be a phrase for it. It's definitely someone in pain, at least how I interpret it. I'm going to hope that the vocalist is doing things healthily, but yeah, I mean that's not a typical. I'm just making a harsh vocal because we like to scream in this band. That was like, I want to use harsh vocals to tell a story, and I want this to hurt. Like real intention behind the type of harshes they're producing. Um, yeah, let's hit some lyrics, I guess. Now, I don't remember this coming up in past Converge song analyses, reaction videos, whatever you want to call these. Here's an annotation here. It says, like with a lot of Converge songs, most of the written lyrics aren't actually said in the song. Or it will just be a phrase or sentence from the lyrics that will be the only thing said. In Concubine, Jacob Bannon, the vocalist, repeats, I'll stay gold, you stay gold, for the whole song. But there is a poem for the song. If you look at the insert for your physical media or you look up lyrics anywhere, this is what you're going to get. It says, Dear, I'll stay gold just to keep these pasts at bay, to keep the loneliest of nights from claiming you, and to keep these longest of days from waking you, for I felt the greatest of winters coming. And I saw you as seasons shifting from blue to gray. That's where the coldest of these days await me, and distance lays her heavy head beside me. There I'll stay gold, forever gold. This is kind of wild. I mean, just get the lyrical analysis out of the way. It's a relationship that's on its last leg. He says that the seasons are shifting from blue to gray, so from the warmth of summer to the gray dreariness of winter. He says that he's going to feel that these days are longer and that they're going to be lonely nights for him, and that he's trying to keep those at bay, trying to keep the time from turning. In a sense, the relationship it's pretty much over, and he's just trying to delay the inevitable end of it because he's going to end up lonely and sad on the other side of this. I'm not sure about the idea of staying gold forever. I don't. Maybe that's just an idea of being worthwhile, of having worth to the relationship. I don't know. But yeah, so there's your lyrical analysis there. But I keep coming back to this idea of writing lyrics and then not singing them, and implying them or hyper focusing on a single idea of them, sort of like creating a thesis statement for the song that if you're curious about, you could go read an adjacent poem to elsewhere. And that's kind of wild to me because it innately makes this a multimedia project. This is not necessarily like an art exhibit or a film soundtrack where you're supposed to listen to the music alongside something else, but it's where you need a different medium of art to help understand the musical form. I don't think listening to the song while reading the poem is really going to help. There is so much going on both of these areas. There's a lot of metaphor in the lyrics. There's a lot of music in the music. And plus, you have somebody screaming at you the whole time too. If you're trying to pay attention to the words in the song, but I think it's interesting that you can listen to the song and then read a poem later and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see how that helps me understand the music. It's an interesting idea. And not to mention that, but they take the core feeling here and put it into the song. I'll stay gold, you stay gold. This idea of having a worth, or keeping things bright and happy, trying to keep the relationship alive, basically. It's just like what the vocalist is hyper fixated on. There's so much other nuance to it that you can find in the poem, but the narrator, the main character of this story, is so hyper focused on this one idea that everything else is a secondary thought. If you want to go research those secondary thoughts, you're welcome to. Here's a pamphlet. We include it with our albums and CDs. Read it. But otherwise, if you just listen to the story, you kind of get an inside look into this person's mind. They want to say all of this elegant stuff here about lonely nights of growing winters and seasons shifting from blue to gray, the coldest nights awaiting them. But all they can actually get out of their mouth is, I'll stay gold, you stay gold. I'll stay gold, you'll stay gold. Over and over and over. And it's what's defining all of their actions. It's defining their feelings, their emotions. I think really leaning into this chaotic music for this song, and being as overwhelming as it is compositionally, sonically, and production wise, it really leans into this hyperfixation that the narrator is going through, of trying their hardest and kind of losing themselves to keeping this failing relationship alive because of the fear of what comes next, because of those lonely nights in the future. And that's wild. I'm usually sort of against that. I like my art to be self-contained, but I think this is one of those cases where it's a pretty strong support of creating this sort of multimedia art, but again, not simultaneous absorption of it and engagement, but taking time to do both separately from each other in a way to further your enjoyment of both of them. I think the poem is fine, but really showcasing the singularity of the mental state of the narrator and the music adds to that. Again, this idea that we're kind of seeing two sides of this person, that is kind of cool. And I can't think of any other band that's done something like this. Not a song I think I'm going to want to revisit. It is very aggressive and very short. Maybe it works better as an album song. It does sound like it leads into track 2, but as an isolated work of art, I really appreciate what it's doing. And I think it's pretty cool, this whole lyrics versus what's sung thing that they have going on here. Yeah, pretty cool this time around, at least. Those are my thoughts. Converge's Concubine. Somehow we're 20 minutes into a video where we checked out a 1-minute song. That's just me overanalyzing stuff as usual. These are my thoughts on it. What are yours? Do you have any thoughts, perspectives, opinions that might differ than mine? Maybe you want to add on to something I said or whatever. Maybe you just want to say thanks for the video. Put all that stuff down in the comments. I appreciate them all. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all 3 of those. Alright, that wraps it up for this one. We do have a special selection coming up next. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.